Thank you, everybody, for coming back after dinner. It's going to be, I think, hopefully a pretty wonderful night. A couple housekeeping notes from Dave. He wanted me to remind everybody that the symposium starts tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., same place. So come for another day of great speakers tomorrow. The USGS was a huge partner in the sesquicentennial Colorado River Exploring Expedition and came out with a publication called Powell, Then and Now, produced by Eleanor Snow and Annie Scott. That is out in publication. I was only able to get 11 copies to bring with me, but I'll have them over there. If you feel like, if you've seen this publication, it's a pretty great little book put out by the USGS, and I have 11 of them for anybody that would like one of those. And then, to get to tonight, I'm Jessica Flock from Wyoming, and I'm honored to be introducing tonight's speaker and speak about Scree, the Powell 150 trip. In 1980, at the age of 7, my mom and dad purchased the family a 14.5-foot Avon Adventurer, and we set out to paddle Northgate Canyon on the North Platte River. Fast forward hundreds of river trips and 40 years later, and I found myself meeting Tom Minkley at a small cafe on the University of Wyoming campus and being invited to join the sesquicentennial Colorado River trip as outreach coordinator, camp kitchen manager, and river runner. Following the modern day route of John Wesley Powell, the Powell 150 expedition was not a reenactment of the past, but rather a re-envisioning of the future that engaged traditional, historic, and contemporary river ecosystem thoughts of dialogue and management. Filming on the river for 70 days was no easy feat. It presented a myriad of challenges, including the vulnerability of equipment to the ever-present water and heat. Filmmakers Ben Krashauer and Cody Perry documented the river expedition and outreach events to tell the modern-day story of the Colorado River Basin. While on the river, they conducted interviews, hauled jibs up ridgelines, backed up 16 terabytes of data, and captured the glory of the basin. Ben and Cody recorded the Powell 150 trip from many angles, utilizing diverse voices. From the deserts of southern Arizona to the mountains of Colorado, Cody's lived experiences encompass much of the Colorado River Basin. As co-founder of Rig to Flip, Cody oversees the day-to-day operations of the film company. Cody and Rig to Flip create a different model of film that asks tough questions and inspires change makers. Whether around the campfire at Big Pine, the shoreline of Triplet Falls, or the stern of our motorized inflatable flotilla across Powell Reservoir, Cody shared his insights, infectious laughter, and dedication for helping to build a sustainable future for life and livelihood throughout the Colorado River Basin. Cody Perry.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you, everyone, for coming here tonight. It is my distinct honor to be presenting as part of this symposium. I feel like, in a sense, this is kind of like my thesis, because I've been building towards this for a long time. So I'm pleased to be sharing this with all of you. So let me get just this set up here, get my clicker ready. Okay. I want to start by recognizing that we're on native land. I say that as a recreationist, as a boater, because I believe that I want to have solidarity with my indigenous friends and communities and wanting to see indigenous representation more in boating, in recreation, and outdoor recreation as a whole. I think it's something that's woefully missing. I take ownership of that. Part of that is because I'm part of that culture, that American culture, the standard Western one. I come from a ranching family in southern Arizona. This is my mom and dad. It's Marty there on the left, that's Terry on the right. My folks raised me under the mythology of the Grand Canyon. They weren't boaters, they were backpackers. And they would occasionally skip school to go down into this huge complex. Even though they weren't boaters, for some reason my parents were sure to always tell me that the river was at the center of that story. There's me as a little toddler with Dad. My earliest memories on the ranch always involve water. Irrigation, or if we lived next to the river, water was something that I had a it was tangible in the lives of my parents and our day-to-day experience. Today, that connection to water in the West is still at the center of my very being, my day-to-day. As Jess just said, I run Rig to Flip. Rig to Flip's a media company with the name as a metaphor. You want to be prepared for the uncertain outcomes coming down your way. We wanted to tell stories about things that young people will be inheriting. You know, this land and all these issues and all these stories within it. Storytelling's a really great medium in a conservation space. We tend to identify things that are commonalities between people, experiences that we can relate to or even learn from. I focus on more obscure resources. For instance, these are some oil and gas parcels being proposed for the first quarterly oil and gas lease sale in 2022. It's about a 5,000 acre block that's right on the Green River in the Uinta Basin, just downstream from Jensen. There's only a few places where public land touches the river there, and it's typically underutilized for a recreational resource. Most people consider the Uinta Basin a sacrifice zone due to oil and gas development that's quite expansive. 1/3 of the world's known oil shale reserves sit there in the Uinta Basin. I also focus on resources like the White River here. The White River is an outstanding scenic trip that isn't really done much by boaters. Here's my home river, the Yampa. That's the Yampa there on the lower right. And then this other river up here is the Little Snake River. The Little Snake River is, without question, the most important tributary of the Yampa River. One of the reasons why is because it dumps a tremendous amount of sediment into the river. The Yampa at flood stage is still essentially a cold mountain stream by the time it meets the Little Snake. This is about 4 miles upstream of Deer Lodge and Dinosaur National Monument. It changes the character of the river. Most boaters, most recreational boaters, go into the Yampa and have never heard of the Little Snake. Now, obviously, Flaming Gorge Dam is upstream on the Green, and it blocks all the sediment from going downstream. So this resource, the Yampa as a whole, and in particular the Little Snake, are major drivers of naturalness in the Green River throughout the entire state of Utah. Here's the Dolores River, is another river I focus on that's plagued by a complex and conflict-ridden management structure. It's really kind of sad story. This is probably the first casualty of climate change in the Colorado River Basin. This river's crashing. It's sad. So I've been doing this for a long time now. I've been running around trying to make a life about telling stories about rivers and about Western communities. So when Ben called me to join on a 70-day trip spanning 1,000 miles, I immediately said yes. This is something I feel like I've been building toward, like I said, for a long time. And how could you say no to a face like that? The trip, as Jess described, was on the 150th anniversary of the Powell trip. We launched the same place in Wyoming from Expedition Island. It's really like, people have done this trip, right? People have floated from Wyoming clear down to Mexico. It wasn't like this was something that was undone. The important thing was to really think deeply and hard about like what's changed in 150 years. 150 years is nothing. It's not very long. Lots changed. Lots changed including all these states. All these achieved statehood not long after Powell's trip. We see a ton of different, and I want to give shout out to Grand Canyon Trust. Shout out to Grand Canyon Trust, y'all, for making these great public resources in these maps and also the great work that they do. You can see a number of administrative units here. Hey, Tom, how many administrative units, how many different federal, units span the course of the river that we did? Just a rough number. Somewhere in excess of 30. Too many to count. Too many to count. Here's another one here from the 10 Tribes Partnership and the Bureau of Reclamation, a number of tribes within the river basin. So a lot's changed, going from what essentially Powell described as a blank map to today. We're in a totally different spot. Some of those things we know about, some of these things are obvious, like Flaming Gorge Dam. We know that's different. But this is where the trip really was born out of: a bunch of fat tire and kind of an obscure alleyway in the back streets of Laramie, Wyoming. Tom's shed, as it were. We see some of the through trippers here, as we came to call them: Tom, Jess, Pat. Tom being the expedition leader, Jess also being the leader to all of us in some sense, mother hen, expert rafter, Pat being the expedition artist. Here we are launching from, this is Expedition Island there in Green River, Wyoming, along the Green River. This is the group that we launched with that day. All these people, there's tons of snow and rain. It was, your ideal day to launch on a trip. Now, this guy here that looks a lot like Powell, I want to point out, it was my understanding that this was just some random guy, and we pulled him into the photo just because he kind of looked like Powell. I later found out that no, he was in fact there to look like Powell. So I like my first understanding of that guy better. So here's us moving downstream from Green River, Wyoming, right off the bat, seeing all these it's not long after you launch at Green River, Wyoming, about just a few miles, and you will hit the slack water of Flaming Gorge. Now, this is a lot of our trips day to day would go like that, the standard river trip, right? I'm sure a lot of you guys know that. You travel throughout the day, you get to where you're going to stop, you throw out all your stuff. It's very routine. We would almost always do these big circle ups and have these great discussions. Every section was new people new people would come in, and the folks off the older section would switch out. So we had something 63 unique individuals come on to the trip: USGS people, scientists, journalists, tribal members. It spanned the gamut. As Jess said, this was a partnership between the Geologic Survey, the U.S. Geologic Survey, and the University of Wyoming, and really countless other partners. This is how we got around on Flaming Gorge. We had a big boat here just tow us around the reservoir. We got into this big flotilla, and it was great, until it got pretty cold. This is one of our expedition members here. He's holding a tin type photograph of Flaming Gorge Dam. And here he is, in his little box and exposing this piece of metal, and then he'd go into this other box full of these chemicals and expose these old photos. There was an older one of the group in black and white before that. This is another big difference right here. Did anyone know what rapid this is? Anyone recognize this rapid? Red Creek. Loey Belknap, of course, knows. Okay, of course. So, okay, this is the first piece of whitewater that we really ran. I mean, we're not counting Mother-in-Law Rapid right here, but going down from Wyoming, this is the first piece of whitewater that you encounter on the Green River below Flaming Gorge Dam. You can see the impacts of the dam's placement on the river right here. I mean, one of the things that's obvious is there's this big sediment-laden water here coming out of Red Creek, and then of course the crystal clear blue water coming out of Flaming Gorge. But the other thing to point out too is all this vegetation encroachment that's come in on the debris fan over years, lopping off the flows from Flaming Gorge and those scouring flows that would occur beforehand. Here's us moving down towards Gates of Lodore. There's the canyon break there in the background floating by Browns Park. You can see right here this kind of mountainous land off to the right of the river is called Diamond Breaks, and going to be some of Colorado's newest wilderness soon. Here's in Dinosaur, a park unit. Of course, there's a lot to say about Dinosaur, and I'm going to leave the film to talk mostly about that. Dinosaur, to me, is one of the birthplaces of the modern American conservation movement. David Brower, the Echo Park battle. And today, Dinosaur is one of the cornerstones of the Upper Colorado Endangered Fish Recovery Program. The Yampa River providing those kind of natural hydrograph that are critical to endangered fish for their life cycle essentially is the last tack holding those species on the face of this planet. Going through Gates Lador here, moving on down, of course, to Island Park and Rainbow Park. Outstanding country, one of my faves. And then, of course, going to Uinta Basin here. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Uinta Basin is, like I said earlier, is one of these places that has been underutilized, kind of underappreciated, I'd say, by boaters. You know, we max out permits going to Dinosaur. There's not enough permits to get out to the public. You know, you hear the public very upset all the time about how they didn't get their permit. Same with Deso. Deso's got a lot of competition, but then there's this 100-mile ribbon of absolutely gorgeous water in the middle that no one really goes to. We're moving through the Uinta Basin here. Here's Ben filming some oil and gas units. We hiked all over these things. And I can tell you they do really put off quite a smell. So that's one of the things too, real quick, about the Uinta is like, yeah, there's tons of oil and gas there, but let's not forsake or consider that some type of sacrifice zone. It's a major wildlife corridor. In particular, in between the Uinta Mountains and the Tavaputs Plateau just to the south. All kinds of animals, all kinds of the food web itself is intact on that like ribbon of just exotic diversity going through northeast Utah. Finally getting into Deso here, of course, back to the people. This is where the like water was really starting to come up on us this year. You can see here just like crowding the boats into this one spot where you can get into the camp. So as the Scree trip moved down the river, it facilitated all kinds of events all over, you know, from Green River, Wyoming, into Moab, Page, and so on. I mean, we did a ton of events. Some of those were remote to the trip altogether. Moving here into another park unit. And on down into the good old Cataract here. Here's a group going into Cataract. Here's a group coming out of Cataract. So I'd say, without a doubt, the experience that happened during Cataract, this crew right here is, I did probably my career achievement in whitewater with these people. I feel a tremendous attachment to these folks. And that was an achievement that I hope, I don't know, maybe do it again. Lake Powell is what I looked forward to most. You know, as a seasoned boater, I was really looking forward to getting on the slack water of Lake Powell almost more than anything. It's because merely it's a place that I have not seen yet. And at the high water 2019 or the higher water during that year, you know, we went through miles of zones where you'd see driftwood accumulated in these like odd patterns, you know, just for miles working through it. This is how we got through Lake Powell. That little 15 horse is just a champion. Pushing these like a big raft flotilla, we definitely got a lot of looks. A lot of people like kind of rolling up on us, like what is going on, what is that? We typically hear about Lake Powell as a boater in particular through stories of like Katie Lee, you know, David Brower again. And rarely do we hear about the loss of Lake Powell through the lens of an indigenous community. These folks that were using these lands as grazing routes, that were using these as routes to access hunting grounds and ceremonial, other traditional gathering times of the year. Lake Powell fragmented indigenous communities from their traditional lands. It wasn't just a loss of canyons for some delightful boating trip. It was also like identity and heritage. So here's Tom. Finally made our way below Glen Canyon. And the Grand Canyon, I mean, at this point in the trip, it's what every grand trip is. It was full of joy, full of magic, full of fun and whitewater, and that is completely at the antithesis of Powell's experience, referring to it at times as like a prison. It's everything that a modern raft trip is. You can see some like, this is a night shot where a ton of waterfalls came down. And eventually, and so suddenly, it was at the end. You know, a lot of people had gone different ways by this point. Tom, Jess, Ben, Pat, and this is David. These guys here at Temple Bar completing the last part of the trip. This is the last crew. Finishing, as it were, 70 days. Quite an experience. So at the end of it, as a storyteller, my work was only beginning. You know, we somehow did all this time, and we only like snapped one cord and lost one lens cap in the river. Somehow, like I mean, I've done more just walking out to my truck, breaking stuff out of my front door. But I mean, after this, yeah, we had a big task, and ultimately, the COVID epidemic came down, and that really impacted our production, and we ended up not pictured here, just with Ben and I, is that we also reached out to indigenous filmmakers to help us complete the work that we set out to do. We wanted to do a bunch of follow-up interviews to add into the film, and at a certain point, it's just not appropriate for Ben and I to expect to have access to those communities during that. So we hired people that were doing the work down there anyway, and they just kicked ass. So we were able to finish the story, and what you're gonna see tonight is the product of that work. It's like my book report on the place that I love most. And I'll let the film say the rest of it, and without too much more ado, we'll call that good. I thank you all for coming tonight, and it's my pleasure again to share this film with you. And I also want to give a big shout out to Tom, Jess, and Pat back there. If you guys could stand up. They're the producers of the film also. I couldn't have done this without them. Let's hit it.
Headed to Green River, Wyoming right now. Getting ready to launch on a 1,000-mile expedition down the most iconic rivers in the American Southwest, the Green and Colorado Rivers. 150 years ago, one-armed Civil War veteran named John Wesley Powell was the first white man to lead an expedition down these rivers. We're here to take a look at what's changed since then. You know, setting out on an expedition like this, you want a solid crew. We have Tom Minkley, expedition leader and paleoecologist. He's an expert on environmental change in the arid West. Pat Kekut, expedition artist. His paintings reflect Western landscapes marred by human exploitation. Jess Flock, educator and boat shop owner. She brings over 30 years of rafting experience to the expedition. And finally, we have Ben Kraushar, filmmaker and graduate student at the University of Wyoming. I'm Cody. I'm here to run a camera, row a boat. There's no substitute for the unscripted element of going out on a river and going down that river to find its own authentic story. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to find.
Keep wondering about what my role is in this project or what I'm hoping to get out of it. It's pretty daunting, actually. The upside is that I'm going to be waking up every day to be on that river to create artwork.
What I'm most nervous about is getting to that moment of launch. Really looking forward to it. It's been a big haul to get all of this stuff pulled together. I think it's going to be a really interesting summer, for sure.
Strapping all my shit down. you know, for the first time. I'm sure it'll all evolve over time though. Right now I'm just kind of throwing it in a pile. I'll figure it out later.
It's a little surreal maybe. It feels like there's a lot ahead of us with a lot of work and fun hopefully and good times.
Yeah. Cheers, man.
Here's to a good expedition.
Here's to a good expedition. I think we'll be doing all right. Almost there. Almost there.
It is hailing.
When across this land, I'll be that banjo picking man. It's been a long, 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 long time that I had you on my mind, on my mind. That I had you on my mind, on my mind. Man, true love's hard to find. Well, I done had you on my mind.
In 1869, John Wesley Powell and his men embarked on a historic expedition down the Green and Colorado rivers. His survey catalyzed an unsustainable Western expansion that perpetuated the displacement of indigenous peoples and the overexploitation of natural resources. 150 years later, we follow in Powell's footsteps and are rafting 1,000 miles from Green River, Wyoming to Lake Mead, Nevada. While only 5 of us are doing the entire journey, we'll be joined by over 60 people along the way to help us examine firsthand the issues and injustices surrounding water in the West, to help us see what has changed and understand where we are going.
We woke up this morning after our first day on the river. We're gonna meet up with University of Wyoming professor Brandon McElroy, who has a research vessel that he's kindly come out here to tow us across the reservoirs. Dropping into this trip, I mean, it's completely different than what Powell experienced. Right now we're on a reservoir, which wasn't here when Powell rode this.
In 1869, a government scientist named John Wesley Powell explored the river by boat. When he passed our valley, he entered a short canyon lined with colorful red cliffs. Powell called it the Flamin' Gorge. It's a good name, I think.
Water has continuously been an essential ingredient for Euro-American settlement or colonization of the American West. The West has been described as a hydrological society, and in a sense that's very, very true. LA, Denver, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Salt Lake, can go down the list. Those places wouldn't be what they are in the 20th century but for large-scale water development. Water has fueled the growth of the modern American West, and the very identity of the region can be attributed to water development. The descendants of the Euro-American settlers, they've been the beneficiaries of the law of the river. Native peoples and the non-human world, I would suggest, have been historically relegated to the margins.
My name is Pahyoma, water running. I'm from the village of Masangnabe, which is located in Second Mesa, Arizona. I'm a Patangongwa, a squash clan. I am the Lenmongwe at Masangnabe, the flute chief. Who were the first users of this water? The Hopi. Our people lived there. It's documented. But what rights do we have? Zero. Nothing.
Native communities were an afterthought at most when the cornerstone of the law of the river was drafted, the Colorado River Compact. So if we're thinking about the allocation rules that determine who gets a piece of the pie from the Colorado River system, Native communities weren't included in those negotiations. Native communities were, again, dismissed as an afterthought.
We got an early start this morning. We're at the end of the Flaming Gorge Reservoir, and Brandon, he's getting his 30-foot trailer so that we can get hauled around Flaming Gorge Dam.
Yeah, excited. Get over this dam and get into our longest stretch of open water.
My eyes adjust, my joints are rusty, sheets are off the cold and dusty road. Folks, they must have been another night on the bend. Kick rocks, slept in songs, blew on levee, walk scout.
You know, we're gonna see this for about 500 miles, I think. It's really awesome. You know, the nature of the project is you have to embrace everything, and part of our river system is reservoirs. Now we start the river portion of this thing.
Sign of alcohol, I don't know where this train stops, but I wanna know. Been right alone, out here together. Reckon that we'll keep trying if rock bottom it never shows. You're not alone. If there's a storm.
With Flaming Gorge behind us and the pulse of flowing water pushing our heavy boats along, we quickly approach Gates of Lodore and Dinosaur National Monument, a stretch of river cherished for generations by river runners. In the 1950s, these towering canyons were the site of a controversial dam project that would have flooded nearly 100 miles of pristine river wilderness. The ensuing battle galvanized the American conservation movement into a potent political power. Since Powell's embattled passage through these river canyons, Gates of Lodore and the surrounding landscape of Dinosaur National Monument have been preserved in the national park system. These canyons were saved.
I'm Noel Richardson. I live in Jelm, Wyoming, a University of Wyoming guy and a Wyoming native, more or less. Got an opportunity to row a boat a little on this trip, and so I said I would. I celebrated my 80th birthday on the 23rd of this month, and we launched on the 24th. Nothing gets old on the river. There's always something new.
We only get a day in Lodore, and today is the day. We're going to go down past Echo Park, most recently famous as the landscape that was saved against the loss that we have with Glen Canyon Dam even further downstream.
Yep, I'm excited. We got Triplet Falls, Harp Falls, and Hell's Half Mile today. So yeah, we got a great day ahead of us.
Nothing like using one pinball rock to keep you off the next one. That was super. Jessica, what are you doing? She's perched. Oh shit. Ooh, shit. Oh Christ. How's this gonna go? Oh no. Oh shit. Oh my. Well, that's a perfect job of getting on there, isn't it? Just goes to show you, you never know. There you go. It looks like it always looks. It always looks really nasty, and sometimes it is. Yeah. So I don't know.
Are you excited to drop in?
Darn right I'm excited. I'm not sure what my pulse rate's going to be or my blood pressure when we go in there, but I don't want to be monitored. My doc can make me quit rowing. So I love river trips. You go out and see what happens and deal with it. Sometimes you have a wreck, sometimes you don't. You just go out and deal with it and enjoy it.
We're at Echo Park, just south of the confluence of the Yampa and the Green River, coming around Steamboat Rock.
Here the Green River glides by Steamboat Rock at Echo Park, one of the most wonderful sights in all the world. proposed Echo Park Dam would leave just the tip above water. No, it isn't progress to destroy these beautiful canyons of the Yampa and Green with reservoirs that can be placed elsewhere whenever the real need for them arises. Of course, if they build their dams here, you could roar past the tops of these cliffs through 100 miles of reservoir in a power boat, just as you can do in hundreds of other reservoirs all over the country. But so little to gain, and so much to lose. Take another look. Yes, take a good look at this wilderness river country of yours. 2,000 feet straight down into the heart of it. Remembering what it was like when you were down there looking straight up, feeling the surge of the river as it carried you along. Remember, too, that our great national park system isn't an accident. Men worked for it, saved it from exploitation, gave us the opportunity of being inspired and thrilled and renewed by them.
The recreation and this river running, which, I started out for the thrills and all that and everything like that. Well, then I want my kids to do that. I want my grandkids to do that. And I got 18 great-grandkids. You get out here and then you get the experience, and maybe it turns on a light in your brain and you go like, what I need to do, what we need to do, what these people need to do is do what you can to maintain it as close to the pristine condition. It's never going to be as pristine as it was, but you can keep it as good as it is and you can improve it. There are parts of it left, and this is part of it here, that somewhat like what it was originally. You try to maintain that.
There's nothing like being on the river. I mean, the river, it's like a pharmacist or a doctor that can help you cleanse out your soul. It can clean you. It can make you rethink things in a positive way. The vibration, the movement of the water is so exhilarating to the spirit, to where your spirit reawakens rather than being in that nutshell to where you're trapped. But when you get out here on the river, man, I tell you, there's nothing like it.
How do I always know that it's you? And why is each time a time I've been missing you too? And how do you seem to know I'm alone when there's no one beside me to keep me from picking up the phone? But you only call when you're not doing well.
Heard that about 28 people a year float through the Uinta Basin in the way we are. So we're functionally doubling with our expedition the number of floaters through this. It's really rare that you would see it from a river like we are.
So yeah, 2 weeks ago we started this trip. 14 days down, 56 to go.
Why do I still answer when you call? Say I know you well, that I'm still your dear friend. And you still cry for the
We've been anticipating coming out of the more protected landscapes and into more BLM land. And oddly, I think everybody on the trip just was kind of amazed at the beauty that we saw around us. A lot of times me and a handful of buddies go out and then use spaces like this for like studio spaces or experimental spaces where you can complete a project or maybe come up with new ideas and just explore kind of the reality of land use and kind of think about our consumption.
I know we have 40 million people using the water of the Colorado River. The river is in deficit. All climate change models show temperatures increasing. So even if we have the same amount of rain as we've had in the past, we have less water in the system.
Climate change is water change. Climate change is going to affect the Colorado River Basin's hydrology in the future, just as it has in the past. We will have to adapt to climate change. We'll have to adapt our existing rules, our existing ways of thinking to the reality or the realities that climate change imposes on the basin's water supply.
Yate she Nikki Cooley the shijine kinya ani nashlo look at the na a bashishin is it lana a dashinale twa headline a dashiche bestot isn't the skis do shot to the a nasha ade kinlande shagan put away the net as son in the shlem. I just introduced myself to you in the Navajo way to offer my respects to you, but also to all the natural beings around us. In the last few years, the Colorado River flow has decreased by 20%, maybe a little bit more, and that's due to climate change.
Climate change causes flows in the basin to diminish. Some projections suggest regional aridification. But bottom line is, the basin is forecast to become a drier place.
Name's Jim Prairie, and I work with the Bureau of Reclamation, and I'm one of the modelers that looks at the big river, so looking at the full scale of the Colorado River Basin.
For me personally, the greatest uncertainty that I'm trying to work through is really what to expect in the supply to this river. This is really the longest drought we've seen since we've been recording stream gauge information, which is pretty much early 1900s. And it's of the scale that we've seen this in 1,000-year paleo records we have of stream flow, but we're in some of the worst even of those paleo records right now. And the more we look at that, the more uncertain it is. And the way we used to do things is we looked at the historic record and we said, okay, this is what happened in the last 100 years. We can expect something like that. And we've moved into this space now where we no longer can expect that. And I think it's a little bit of a scary spot for people because they don't like the unknown.
The Hopi, we're a water-based society. We pray for the rains to come, for the snow to fall, for moisture in the earth, not just for the Hopi, but for everybody, every living thing that's out there. By whatever's living on the land, survive. Life is very important. Water is life.
Powell is known for his daring river descent and incessant ambition. He wrote immense proposals that envisioned new ways of governing land and water, warning that the West had limits, and to ignore them would only lead to a heritage of conflict and litigation. His proposals were met with ridicule, opposition, and ultimately ignored. Today, we find a system where the majority of cities using water from the Colorado River are located far beyond the boundaries of the basin. Our water resources are under threat from climate change and fossil fuel consumption. Hundreds of miles downstream, the largest reservoirs in the country, Lake Mead and Powell, are dropping at alarming rates, proving how unsustainable the system is in the face of a warming climate. Scientists predict that climate change will continue to reduce the river's flow by an additional 30% by 2050. While we do not have the ability to control the imminent impacts of climate change, we do have the ability to control our consumption of water.
June 11th, and we are at the put-in of Desolation Gray Canyon. Things have changed for us a little bit. We're now really around people in a way that we haven't been since the beginning of the trip. It's a big transition in resource usage, and in this case, the resource is the environment itself. People coming out to enjoy the desolation of Desolation Canyon.
I'm down by Green River where we used to go. I'm down by Green River, there she goes. Until one day another lover comes my way. Till then I'll go to Green River all alone.
So I'm 22, I'm in Boulder. I still remember laying on my little bed, a couple inches off the floor, just kind of figuring it out, and in my mind saying, okay, art, I want to be an artist and I want to commit to that. And so it was like a wedding commitment in a lot of ways. I'm hoping that, the collection of my work will be able to kind of reflect or mirror thoughts and in science as well as the history of this river, and also thinking for the future. It's so inspiring to, be here with the rock art, around and be drawn to it and see how people still are interested in looking at that and seeking that work out. It's all really humbling to be part of this project, and what an honor this is.
For a century and a half, Powell's legacy has been construed as a legendary tale of conquering the unknown. However, Powell's 1869 journal made little mention of indigenous communities already within the basin. He misrepresented the narrative to make his expedition appear more uncharted than it truly was, and viewed indigenous communities as inferior, whimsical, their knowledge trivial, despite centuries of successful habitation on the western landscape. To him, they represented an uncivilized burden on western expansion.
My name is Daryl Vigel, and I'm an enrolled member of the Hickory Apache Nation, and I also have tribal affiliation to the Zia Pueblo and Jemez Pueblo. And my tribe, the Hickory Apache Nation, is a founding member of the 10 Tribes Partnership of the Colorado River. The 10 Tribes Partnership of the Colorado River was formed in 1992. And the reason the 10 tribes become really significant in the conversation right now is because the 10 tribes of the partnership combined have 20% of the volume of the river, 2.9 million acre feet of water rights. And traditionally, and still to a large extent, haven't had any access to policy tables. At the heart of issues with the Colorado River has to be the tribes, because it's the only pool of water that, that we can actually utilize. Everything else has pretty much been designated and allocated. So this is it. This is the line in the sand for tribes, because the Broader Basin study in 2012 said that by 2060, the imbalance between supply and demand in the Colorado River will be 3 million acre feet. And no surprise that the tribes have 2.9 million acre feet. And and history has told us that they have no problem with just yanking it away from us. To move forward as a country, we need to reconcile our past, especially with Native Americans.
Things have to be rewritten. And I hate to say it, when the encroachment came, we invited people here. We brought them into our homes. We fed them. We took care of them. And they turn around and treat you like I'm the outsider. But not all people are the same. Like my brother. John and I are brothers. We're more than allies. I respect him, and I think he respects me. But John and I make things happen for the environment. We don't do it for ourselves. We're doing it for everybody.
Last night I lay in a restless bed, a humdrum life pounding in my head, when out of the night came a mighty roar, the river calling me back once more. My heart knows what the river knows, I gotta go where the river goes. Restless river, wild and free, the lonely ones are you and me. Today I know your magic call will lead me back.
We were not alone. There was help. Maybe it was the combined spirit of all of us working together on a single objective. So that's an energy I can't explain, but it did happen. The river, our souls and our spirits were energized, and I think that's what saved us.
It's great to have somebody who knows this section so well. Even with a lot of experience, having more experience around you always helps.
John is helping make sure we're rigged to flip. You never know when that might happen.
We're really lucky to have John out here, river legend. He's done this shit like 400 times at every water level imaginable.
We're going down Cataract Canyon.
How were those first rapids today, John?
Oh, well, everybody did well, but not exceptional. We're going to try and go from adequate to perfection.
Doubt, I'll admit, I felt like a sense of foreboding nature in front of us for the whole group.
Looked like a pretty straightforward run. Bust those laterals right after those rocks. You know, we've got this, and we're going to pull into camp, and we're going to scout the big drop.
We're untying the ropes after the scout. There's some confusion as to who unties the ropes and who's going first.
Go! Here, just hop on, we'll push.
We push our boats out into the water, and before Ben and I got to the decisive feature where the move needed to be made, we looked downstream and saw our first boat was upside down.
We got a flip boat! John's flipped!
But I really thought I was okay, and I was actually shocked it went over. I was under the boat for a while, but I just relaxed and waited.
This boat that was upside down was our leader, our guide. Not only did we need John to show us the lines, but we knew we were barreling towards the big drops, a set of rapids considered the most fearsome and unforgiving in North America.
I didn't really think anybody would be able to get us. Yeah, and the boats just disappeared. I mean, I'm not with the boats anymore.
I felt completely alone, and it was terrifying. It's probably the most scared I've ever been in my life.
Get in! He's on your boat! He's on your boat!
I mean, the current had us. We had no idea where we were. We didn't know it yet, but we were on our way to running the big drops blind.
I don't think that was 18, actually. I'm not sure. I don't fucking know. Alright, bro, I don't know where I am or what.
Our adventures really started around where horizon line just dropped off right in front of us. It was the largest hole I've ever seen in my life. I said to Ben, "Stand up."
What's up ahead? Stand up. Big drop, big cascade over to big hole. For sure. Okay out. It all looks about the same, I don't know. Looks just chundry as fuck. Alright, bro. Alright. Nice looking. Alright. Fuck yeah. Alright.
If that was Big Drop 2, we didn't know it. Big Drop 3 was ahead.
Come on, baby! You got it!
Ben jumped into the seat to give me some rest, as we needed to get out of the river. We have nothing left. In a desperate attempt to break the eddy line, we snapped an oar right in half.
We knew John was safe and we weren't sure about Kate. We assumed she was still with the boat. Almost as soon as we got done with Big Drop 3, somebody's in the eddy over on the right, and we can see now that Kate has let go of the boat and she's trying to swim for shore. It might have been Matt and John maybe that were in the eddy. And we come floating by, so they're above her and she catches back into the current, but we're already around her.
Kate!
She's in the current!
I cannot tell you how important it was for me to see Jess and Tess. And I felt like they knew what to do. And it gave me, I was running out of everything. And it just gave me the strength to hang on for one more moment.
So I get the rope, I'm out on the back of the boat, she's floating towards me. I got my, you pull out the knot, you grab the knot, wait for just the right moment. I wanted to throw early. Bam! And I think I said, "Kate, the rope's gonna flow fast, you gotta get the rope!" She's swimming with whatever she's got left. And she just, a couple strokes, grabs the rope. We got her.
John, how old did you turn today?
Oh, I am 65 years old.
And what did you do on your birthday today?
I flipped in Rapid 15, but I successfully did Big Drop 1, 2, and 3, chasing down Kate and a boat. I had a blast. And yeah, you don't give up. I guess that's a character thing that maybe river running taught me. Activism is the same thing. That's how change happens. The minute you give up, you've essentially said life is not worth living. My dedication to a healthy planet is not worth having. If you start and you don't finish, that is absolutely not okay. I made a commitment to work for a better planet and a better river, and I'm not going to quit.
We have survived high water cataract, and tales of our harrowing experience echo through camp for days. As the river slows on its approach to Powell, the entire group looks forward to days of easy reservoir living, cold beers and motoring.
8 miles out of Galesburg, I'm staring at the rain. 8 ball left of the cheap cocaine, and I'm looking at the sunlight, light through the pines. I couldn't tell you what it is, it's always been mine. Now that I'm gone,
Cody, what are we doing?
Yeah, we're attaching the transom to our frame right now, so we're turning our big whitewater miracle vessel into a motor rig to take us about 150 miles downstream. We just came out of Cataract Canyon. Our boats are over about a mile away at the current height boat ramp. We wanted to come and visit the Height Marina. This is about, a 1,500 foot long, huge concrete pad to access Lake Powell for reservoir recreation, and there's no reservoir here. River's about 2,000 feet away from us right now, over against the cliff, and look at that, you can see kind of the bathtub line of fuller days. It's long-term drought and it's climate change. It's the kind of demand that we place on this river versus the supply that you'll never see this reservoir refilled. This boat ramp will forever be a testament to a bad idea.
Reclamation infrastructure doesn't last forever. Concrete gets old and brittle. Reservoirs fill up with sediment. Reservoir spillways can't handle certain kinds of large floods. We're trapped by infrastructure that isn't going to last forever. Yet we want our society to live forever. We've done nothing to be compatible with that. So it fails. Right now 40 million people depend on this hydraulic trap working. And every single one of us knows that the hydraulic trap becomes dysfunctional. And then what do we do?
Let me get one more person back here. Tom.
The motor seems to be working pretty good, and we're gonna get this thing up on plane and just crank across this reservoir.
The motor is seeming to be a little cranky, as they tend to be. I think there's gonna be some high fives once we get this figured out.
There's nothing, no indication of a clog in there. Yeah, dude, this thing is fucked. Huh?
That was better.
No, this is fucked. This is just as fucked as it's been. I mean, I could see how you might think that, but as far as like I've been watching. We're right now rowing at the very top of Lake Powell, like right where the velocity of the river is gone. Another motor is on its way. It's supposed to be here at 4 p.m. We're kind of on a time crunch right now to get to the launch at the Grand Canyon. We got about 140 miles, and I think even if we got a working motor, I don't know that we could do it in time. The motorboat's coming. Oh, we're glad to see you. Thanks for helping us out.
Seriously, much appreciated.
Yeah. How do you want how can we best set up to get started?
What's that thing right there? Yeah, what is it?
It's a Honda.
Is it 30?
It's a 15.
Sweet, so it's not too heavy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's do this, bud. Pull your oar up. There you go. Keep going. That's right. Okay. Now let's put it on that red pad right there. Okay. And it wants.
Well, here we go. Second attempt here. 30 seconds into another try at motoring. We're a day behind schedule, and with a top speed of 4 miles an hour, that's 5 full days on the throttle.
Well, my warfare will soon be ended. My race is all.
Arnold Palmer, I think I'm gonna get some ice and just do me up, and I'm happy. Where'd you get that popsicle?
And then I'm going home. Christ was a wayward traveler. He went from door to door. His occupation mainly was administering to.
For the last 600 miles, I've been anticipating crossing this reservoir. A remote landscape far removed from the population it supports with hydropower and water storage. Based on what we've seen so far, it's hard not to imagine the wonders below these stagnant waters drowned by Western conquest.
The thing that I keep coming back to is the submerged canyon. It's so odd to me and unsettling, to be honest about it. I'm fascinated by the native presence in Glen Canyon. I would love to learn more about what that looked like. Further, what tribes think about that now, their connectivity to Glen Canyon and the submerged status of Glen Canyon. What are tribal views on that now?
The expeditions and the explorations of John Wesley Powell, it happened at a time when some of our people really didn't understand the Western world so much. They really didn't understand what the Western world was trying to do in Navajo land. It created a disconnect when Lake Powell was actually being formed. It disconnected us from our hunting grounds in Bears Ear National Monument, Escalante, Caperwitz, Boulder Mountain. We've been disconnected from our pastoral history, Aboriginal land, some of the trails that were there. And if we go north of here, we have that ancestral trail that went across the San Juan River. We have been disconnected from our grazing land because the trail is completely wiped out. I think we're going to be in the longest drought that we've ever seen, and with the climate change. So what do we do? Every human being on the face of this continent, we're going to eventually cease to exist if we don't respect nature the way we should. We need to listen to Mother Nature and try to understand what it's trying to tell us.
At some boat ramp. I'm not sure of the name. And we're done motoring across Reservoir Powell.
Seems like every dam portage is a little bit of nuts.
This is our final portage, the last time we have to haul our rigs around a massive dam. By this point in the journey, a sense of understanding is beginning to settle. Nothing clarifies the connectivity of water, land, and people than a deep immersion within it all. The last leg of our journey is ahead, a final descent into the grandest canyon of them all.
We're at Lee's Ferry, July 14th, getting ready to start the last 300 miles of our journey down into the great known Grand Canyon.
So we're starting a really epic portion of this, one that caused a lot of trouble to John Wesley Powell and his men. This is sort of the crux part of that, and it's also, I think, for us a really great opportunity to see some new landscape, think about some new conversations with some new people.
I'm Will Wilson, and I'm a photographer. I hail from, this area actually. I grew up on the Navajo Res. I haven't spent any time really down on the river, and this is a dream come true.
Halfway gone, halfway in a memory, silk streets like ribbons in the wind. Let loose beneath my heels, disappear in the distance, hear the soft fade of a dissipating day. Never to return to me again. I left my love.
It's awe-inspiring. How do you deal with all the hyperbole in the canyon? Because it's already, so glorious at every turn and bend. It's like pretty amazing, pretty beautiful.
I'm not ashamed to tell you I'm tired.
So Jess, how many times have you been on the Grand Canyon?
I have floated the Colorado River through Grand Canyon 30 times, so this is my 31st trip.
Jessica Flock is an amazing woman. I don't know how this project would have succeeded without her working on it. She's watching out for everybody on this trip.
The adrenaline high you get is unexplainable, and then it sticks with you for days.
She knows these rapids and this canyon and these campsites so well. I mean, having somebody going on their 31st river trip down here, like Jessica, is unreal. She's just got a big sparkle in her eye and such a good spirit, and just a solid member of our crew.
I'm mostly watching where Jess is lining up because Jess is fucking shit.
Waves and big fun. Hopefully you don't flip over, but you eat the meat on this one. It's an incredibly good ride. Every trip absolutely adds to sort of the depth of my love and experiences. Yeah, there's something incredibly special about down here.
All the survey photography that was going on, late 19th century, they didn't photograph native encampments or communities or nations when there were plenty of people out here, for sure, that had been doing treaty negotiations with the Spanish and then with Mexico, and then even with the United States, But there's a certain absence there, like a wide open, notion of the West as this place to claim. And I mean, Native folks survived a layer upon layer of ethnic cleansing. The reservation era, the boarding school era, it's like kill the Indian, save the man, So when you look at those beautiful sepia-toned images of these proud Native people, it's like all of that history gets kind of washed away.
Frederick Remington, Thomas Moran, and Albert Bierstadt played a big role in Manifest Destiny, because they were basically, a funny way to think about it is they were painting these beautiful landscapes, but they are also kind of making an inventory list on national resources. It's like, this is what we've got in the closet. This is what we've got out there, And sadly, in a lot of cases, there are some native people depicted in those, but they're very few, and they seem to be kind of on their way, over the horizon. And that's, some of the reality of what was happening too in many people's minds.
The Little Colorado runs through Navajo, and it connects with the Colorado coming up here, and it's the end of Marble Canyon, and it opens up into the Grand Canyon proper. It's also this really sacred space. It holds the emergence point into this world and the creation stories of a number of communities who live in this region. It's like where we came into this world.
I am the first Navajo woman to receive her commercial river guide license in the Grand Canyon on the Colorado River, and I spent almost 13 years as a river guide telling people that we should think about the environment as a holy spiritual place that we can enjoy recreationally, but also respect in a spiritual way.
My name is Lyle Bolinqua. I am a member of the 3rd Mesa Greasewood clan from the village of Baclavi here on the Hopi Reservation in northeastern Arizona. These are markings left by our ancestors that speak to the history of the different people who moved in and around this region. This rock art that we're looking at, this petroglyph, is depicting what we think is the Grand Canyon. Modern day Hopi, we know that we have a deep connection to the Grand Canyon, and so this is really kind of a metaphor for that landscape that we still have connection to here in the modern day. Even though the Colorado River is considered and known to be part of our ancestral lands, we no longer have a legal right to the water that comes out of the Colorado River. So we are effectively cut off from a water source that was for thousands of generations available for us to use. Growing up, a lot of us didn't have access to running water, and a lot of indigenous people, especially here out at Hopi and surrounding Navajo lands, they still don't have running water. Water is a life force for all of us. It has its own spiritual and physical being to it that deserves respect. It's not something that you take for granted. John Wesley Powell, to a lot of people he's a hero, I guess. A lot of folks consider him the first person to have rafted the Colorado River. For us here at Hopi, we know that's false. We know that the first person to raft the Colorado River was a Hopi ancestor. We have our own oral history about this individual from a specific Hopi clan that was the first to journey down. I care about this landscape. I want it to be protected. I want it to be preserved. I don't want it to be abused. We would like to be involved early on and have active participants in the development of any kind of policy out there to prioritize indigenous knowledge and interaction.
Tom and I were driving back from a Grand Canyon trip a couple of years ago, and we're thinking about Powell and thinking about
their amazing journey and recognizing that they raided a farm that was down here in the great unknown. So we thought maybe we would bring some seeds back to recognize that desperation that they were in, and then also as a goodwill gesture going forward.
Yeah.
So we brought these seeds down as close as we could get to native seeds that might have been here.
We asked people what to do with this moment, or just with this gesture, and talking to Howard Dennis and Daryl, we thought we could close the circle by putting these into the ground.
This definitely doesn't reconcile for what was taken, but a seed is a good symbol of going forward and growth and kind of recognizing the ground in this part of the West. So I think just recognizing the past with a good, clear sense of the reality of it is the best place to move forward. And I guess in this case, we're recognizing that as part of the Powell myth.
The symbolism behind it's important. Taking small steps to at least begin to acknowledge and hopefully reconcile things that happened a long time ago. Hopefully this can radiate out throughout and just kind of be a symbol for what's to come within the Colorado River Basin.
Like, you get near the end of a trip, and I think any normal human being is probably longing to go home and see loved ones or their dogs, or have an iced tea. But there's especially I think with this expedition, there's just a part of me that really just wants to stay and just keep rowing, keep learning from really incredible people. I feel like some of these people are my family.
You too.
And it's gonna suck not to wake up with them and live a day with them and experience all the same things with them. I also feel very inspired by all the people I've met and the people who care about this place as much as maybe I do, or they care about their home as much as I care about my home. And so I just feel really encouraged and inspired to want to do more.
So I've been leading the expedition for about 900 miles at this point. We've seen some just incredible landscapes, met some incredible people. We've encountered challenges, a lot of things that you would expect, but taking this to the end is sort of a bittersweet time. It's become normal in a way that I didn't expect. It's been a pretty enriching process to be with this changing cast of people talking about the issues of the arid West. It's been quite humbling for me.
I'm hoping that our work speaks to the Colorado River Plateau right here and right now in all of its beauty and rawness, and not ignoring any of the issues that we have come to understand better from all of our conversations and from witnessing what we've seen on the river. Public land in all of its wild glory is a valuable, valuable thing, and hopefully we can help others understand how important this place is.
There's nothing more important than these places to me. Everything good in my life has spawned from something I've experienced in places like these. All my best friends, all the folks I love, it all ties back to experiences out here.
During Powell's most desperate days in the Grand, half-starved, physically exhausted, overwhelmed by the environment, and with a crew divided as deep as the canyon itself, he scribbled in his journal. "We have an unknown distance yet to run, an unknown river to explore. What falls there are, we know not. What rocks beset the channel, we know not. What walls ride over the river, we know not. Powell's words remain hauntingly relevant. We're still barreling into a different kind of unknown. Climate change, water scarcity, and inequity all perpetuate uncertainty for the 40 million people in the American Southwest, whether they know it or not. To truly face these existential issues would include accepting the difficult reality that the settled West was founded on a flawed idea that the natural resources are ours for the taking because we, as white people, discovered them. However, we know this isn't true. If we are to survive these immense challenges, we have to begin to see equity as the primary goal. We need to make sure river ecosystems are restored. Native peoples are given water, land, and sovereignty. Unsustainable water development and depletions don't continue, and work on a global scale to reduce fossil fuel emissions. If we're to keep living under these terms and artifacts of colonial law, we'll have a river out of time.
Baby, I think that I could lie. This loving for a while, 'cause I forgot what it felt like to feel like this, and I could feel like this a while. And I know you as well as I can know you now, without knowing you are. And I can tell oh baby, this one's gonna be good. Stop thinking about the end when it's just beginning. Hold my hand and make your head stop spinning. We're spinning.